Good afternoon, everyone. We are so excited to have you all joining us tonight. As you know, we have what I think is probably one of the most exciting conversations we've had in a long time for the Black intellectualism movement.
Definitely.
So I want to start by first saying that I'm sorry that I missed last month, but I did take a month off. Just because the Black intellectualism movement really took off faster than I anticipated. And I had people sending me messages. I had people who were interested in how you could get a shirt. I had people
I'm still
contact.
looking for my shirt.
We had your. What did you do? Did we order your shirt?
No.
Okay, so we just have to order your shirt in then. So even Jessica is getting a shirt. So we will be rolling out the list again in order for people to order one. I have not even been pushing any orders for shirts because we did run into a few issues with that last batch, and it took a while to get everything in. So that's one reason that I backed off, just to make sure we had time to get everything structured and organized completely, and make sure that all our resources are available. So I will be running that initiative again for people who would like Black intellectualism movement t-shirts to order theirs. So as I said, I took a little break last month. This really has taken off much faster than I anticipated, and
That's a good thing.
it's been a great thing, Jessica. We've had people from DC that want to be a part. We've had Baton Rouge. We've had Texas. We have Los Angeles coming up on the 25th. And I actually have some people reaching out from around the Philadelphia area as well. So we have more really awesome conversations coming this year. And so I just had to have a minute to kind of try to get things restructured and to continue to encourage people to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I know that we are streaming through Facebook, which is really awesome, but I really want to get people tuned in with the YouTube channel because number one, it's going to help us continue to build a stronger format so that I can keep this going. And number two, you'll be able to go back and look at some of the older videos if this is your first time tuning in, as well as stay with us for all the future conversations we have coming forward. So, and we have some just really exciting things to talk about, but I'm not going to get into those conversations yet. I'm going to go ahead and get started with tonight's guest. And before I get started, I want to just kind of let you guys know, I'm sure you guys can see this big, lovely lump under my eye. I
I
have
can
been
see it.
I don't even have eyeliner on under it. I have been having the blues with my allergies this year. So it for the past couple of days I've had a huge knot sitting right here under my eye. Thank God for my I guess my makeup skills. Because that took it down a little bit. But in case anybody is like, what is going on with Jamie's eye? That's it. I have a little bit of an allergy boo-boo going on. So I want to introduce tonight's topic and tonight's guest. Our topic is legalizing marijuana, the pros, cons, and misconceptions. And we have what I would like to call one of the cannabis goat in the building tonight to talk to
Thank
us
you.
about understanding how legalizing marijuana can revolutionize the economy of Louisiana and the health of our citizens, even her political stance on a lot of things, and really how she has been able to move her career forward and even use some of her experiences to help her make the decision that she wanted to do something more. So the first thing I want to ask you guys to do is go ahead and hit that share button or tag your friends in the comments so that they can come on in for this conversation. You definitely want to have other people in this room. I have had people, especially from Monroe, Louisiana, ask me several times, like, what information do I know about the legalization of cannabis? What do I know about growing it and all these different types of things? I guess people assume that I know about all types of entrepreneurship. And I'm like, I don't know that. I don't know what made you ask me, but I do have the queen who can answer probably all of your questions.
You got
So
that right.
tonight we have Jessica Potts in the building with us. And you may recall her from a few months ago when she also tuned in for a great conversation we had about Black women. and the Black community. And she has used her voice for a long time to advocate for those who are disenfranchised. But she has a big passion for helping people of her community and has really dedicated her life to doing so. And by getting into the cannabis industry, her whole mission is to really revolutionize how we're looking at medical treatment and how we're looking at generational wealth. So I'm very excited about that. Before I turn the mic over to her right quick, I'm going to read her bio, which is very impressive. Jessica Potts is a native, Louisiana native who has been passionate about caring for others her whole life. Jessica was raised on a 400-acre cotton and soybean farm in rural northeast Louisiana, which exposed her to both the science and business aspects of agriculture. At a very young age, she discovered the beauty of nature, which helped her discover a deeper knowledge of self. After graduating at the top of her high school class, she attended Louisiana State University, A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with a full scholarship. After graduating from LSU with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology and Psychology, she then went on to obtain a Master's of Art in Teaching in Special Education and a Master's of Art in Education in Educational Diagnosticians. Diagnostics.
Diagnostics.
And diagnostics. Okay, you guys, I have a hard time with that word. And diagnostician. Yes, as a speaker, there are words that still tongue twist me all the time. As an adult, I finally learned I had a slight list, so excuse me. She worked in education for over 15 years, teaching subjects like English and special education. Even though Jessica enjoyed being an educator, the stress and demands of the job took a serious toll on her health. Jessica began researching holistic methods to cope with MS and began researching the benefits of cannabis and hemp. Her passion increased as she continued to learn about the industry and realized the urgent need to provide more resources to individuals who face the same battles as herself. In 2016, Jessica expanded her expertise in education and advocacy into the cannabis and hemp industry by building relationships with political and industry leaders in Washington, D.C., Colorado, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, and other emerging markets. Because of her expertise and passion for helping others, Jessica has become a well-known industry leader in the cannabis and hemp industry across Louisiana and across our country. In 2018, Jessica founded Bon Santé LLC, which provides patient education and facilitates patient enrollment in the state medical marijuana program. And I guess I could take great pride in also saying she has been my friend for 20 years. We attended LSU together. And, I will for one say we even ended up working in education together. As a matter of fact, she is exactly how I ended up moving to Monroe. So we have had a blossoming relationship and have shared a care for people for a very long time. And our care for people it took us into education and then took us on a pathway to discover other ways that we can provide and support our communities. So I have a great admiration and Jessica knows that and love for her. And I swear
I'm friend.
The smartest woman I know, and I tell her that all the time. She's a brainiac. Because she is so well versed and so very knowledgeable. And I believe that what she is preparing to do and working on doing for our state and this country is going to be very revolutionary. So I'm very excited to have her here tonight. And I'm going to turn the mic over to her to say what she would like to say before we start talking.
Well, you did a great introduction, so thank you. I mean, you covered everything. I would want to start off by saying I am retired from the education system right now and pursuing cannabis entrepreneurship and advocacy full time now.
Yes, you better retire, friend.
Well, education has a way of retiring you.
Okay.
That's a whole nother segment.
I was about to say, we'll talk about that segment later, okay? Because we will eventually have a discussion as well about early retirement from education. I believe that that's a conversation we definitely need to have. And so I love it. I absolutely love it. Congratulations on your retirement and transitioning into a higher level of your calling, which is, I always talk about how at the end of the day, if we say that our goal and mission is to help others and that we have a requirement to support others, like that's our calling on our life, what we just have to figure out is the avenue in which we're supposed to do that in
Yeah.
order for us to reach our highest level of success. And so I'm excited that you have discovered the next level of your calling and that it is taking you to your new level of success. So we have some really, really exciting questions to talk about today. And for everybody who is tuning in, if you have questions you would like to ask Jessica, please drop them in the comments so that we can also answer those questions as we talk tonight. I'm sure that people have a lot of things they want to know because the legalization of marijuana in Louisiana kind of came about rather swiftly for us. I don't know
It
about anybody
did.
else, but I didn't
I
see it
admit it
coming.
came about faster than I thought.
Exactly. In ultra conservative Louisiana, it really caught me off guard. But I guess we could say that's where the political component comes into play. And we'll let you talk about that in just a minute. So I guess I would like to start with the first question for you, which is what made you take a special interest in cannabis and medical marijuana?
Okay, so my origin story. Um, well, when I was 21, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And for those of you who don't know, it is an incurable autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the brain and spinal cord. It manifests itself differently in every patient. Every patient has different symptoms. Some patients don't have symptoms at all. I was a very lucky one and had a plethora of symptoms. The main one in being complete paralysis of my left side. When I was 21, they thought I had a stroke because my left side was completely paralyzed. And after a year of running many different tests, MRIs, CAT scans, they did a spinal tap. Not recommended, very painful. And
I've heard it's very painful.
yeah, and they found that I did indeed have multiple sclerosis.
Oh,
So
oh.
over the course of, I'm not ashamed of my age, I'm 38. Um, over the course of the 17 years, um, the only treatment that they have is what they call immunosuppressants. And those come in the form of shots, infusions, and they've now recently in the latter years come out with pills. Um,
Can you explain what an immunosuppressant does for people who don't understand that as it relates to MS?
it suppresses the immune response, the immune system. So since MS is an autoimmune system, meaning my own immune system was turning against me and attacking my brain and spinal cord, the immunosuppressants suppress or stop the immune response. Now, the bad part about that is it leaves you susceptible to all of the germs and infections and viruses and bacteria that we encounter every day. So I was sick all the time with an upper respiratory infection. Like I just constantly had one, especially in Louisiana with our pollen and grasses and moles and everything and it's been raining here for 2 weeks straight. So, you know, I was constantly getting sick. And when that first round of medicine doesn't work, they turn to steroids. So I was on a lot of steroids. Steroids are the devil to me. They make you gain weight. They cause extreme mood swings, irrationality, um, changes in your sleep. And what I didn't know at the time, it destroys your bones. So by the time I was 30, I needed a complete hip. I needed both hips replaced.
So this is the interesting part. So you're talking about the steroids, which are supposed to be made to boost your immune system, um, right? Is that what the steroids were for you?
The steroid actually, what steroids do is they further suppress the immune response.
Okay, so it was supposed to suppress the disease's progression in your body, right?
Yes.
But the side bar to that is that it started to break down your bones, cause you mood swings. And I would like for us to really clarify this, Jessica, because there are so many people who have lifelong illnesses. I know a lot of people who have seizures also take steroids sometimes and things like that. And a lot of times we have a hard time understanding some of the changes in their character and behavior. But what you're saying is really enlightening on a whole different level tonight for people who don't understand. Number one, the benefit of some game changing medicine you'll talk about. And number two, like people who have to be on steroids, what's happening to their body and their brain and stuff like that from taking this medicine. So you're sharing some important stuff. And I heard you talk about the emotional changes as well as needing the hip replacements by the time you were 30. And I just wanted to reiterate that. Go ahead.
Yeah. It caused something called avascular necrosis, which is where the blood supply is cut off to the bone, and it's normally the major bone, so your femur, your thigh bone. The blood supply was cut off, and so it creates like a cavity in the bone, like a tooth cavity.
Wow.
So um, I was 30, and they didn't want to do the hip replacement that soon because hip replacements normally last about 15 years. So they didn't want to do one that young. So they put me in pain management. I was in pain management for 3 years. I was, by the end of that 3 years, on fentanyl patches, two morphine per day, and 6 Percocets per day, and still teaching and still in pain. Um, I
And
was
you were
talking
teaching
to
at
some
what
friends
grade were
today,
you
and they
teaching?
didn't know
What
that.
grade were you teaching? Can you clarify that as well?
Oh, high school. High school.
The one
Yeah.
with standing is a must. But go,
Yes.
go
So
ahead.
I was actually talking to some friends today, and they didn't realize that the journey that I had, that because I mean, I've been through it. I'm past it, but I've had to learn how to walk over 7 times.
Mhm.
Um, and I say all of that to say I came to a place where I realized, especially when you're in that much pain and you're in pain for 3 solid years, that changes you as well as a person.
Mhm.
You isolate, you don't want to go out, you don't want to have fun, you barely want to go to work. You stop taking care of yourself. You even become depressed and sometimes suicidal because you just want the pain to stop. And had it not been for the encouragement and support of my mother, who wanted me to get a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion to try to find some alleviation for what I was going through, I ended up at USC in California, and I saw a specialist there, and they are the first ones that suggested cannabis to me. And I was not for it because, I mean, I grew up in the deep South, the Bible Belt. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the devil's lettuce. This is definitely like you go from, you go from smoking a joint to smoking a crack pipe immediately.
That's
That's what
where.
they
That's
teach
where the
us.
next step. That's where.
That's what they teach us in Dare. I was a Dare student of the month. Okay,
Just say
Go there.
no.
You know. So I was like, weed? No, no, that's that California stuff. I'm not doing
Not the city life.
that. But baby, when that pain hits you, it makes you think different.
Maybe I need to
It
get
makes you go to the closet and say some prayers and think about it. So I had a gummy, a 10 milligram gummy, and that took away all the pain that all those narcotics were not able to do. And let's not even talk about the side effects that the pain medicine puts you on. And thank goodness I was never addicted. I never got to a point where I was addicted to the pain medicine. I know a lot of people, friends and family, who have become addicted to the opioids, but I was saved from that, and I found cannabis. And now, as of July 2021, I have no active brain lesions. And I am not on any MS medication, period, any immunosuppressants. I had even gotten on chemotherapy, which actually caused my toenails to fall off, among other things. It was horrific. So I'm not on any of that poison anymore.
Come on, Poison. I want us to backtrack just a little bit. I get to share with you some a little more information. Being, for people who don't know, we're actually very close friends. Like, you're one of my best friends. So I kind of get to backtrack on a little loops of things that I know from being with you. And so I would like to go back to the classroom for just a second, and the moment when you realized that you had to transition out of that atmosphere. And this is not any type of way to bash education. I think we can both say that we absolutely love the years we got to spend as teachers, and we
And
value
love those
every minute of that.
kids. Still
Love
love
our
those
children.
kids.
Okay, to like we love them. We thank God for the experience we had. But in particular, Jessica, that was one area that really, really worried me, because can you share a little bit about several of the lesions that popped up on your brain, especially right before you ended up having to basically the life or death situation to put you in, from the different stress and demands of teaching, and having to manage so many responsibilities in the classroom, and how that was starting to affect you, and basically that moment when you realized that I could either stay or I could go and save myself.
When I left the classroom, I was probably in the worst health that I had ever been in. I was in and out of a wheelchair, um, because of the hip replacement problems that I was having, um, and also just the overall emotional and physical and mental fatigue that you battle having a chronic illness, coupled with dealing with all of your students' issues. You know, there's a misconception that when you go in, you just teach, your 7 to 3 or 8 to 3, and that's it. But there's a lot that goes on in between those hours. You're dealing with every child, 30 to 60 kids or more, all of their emotional issues, all of their home issues, all of their academic issues. Um, and that is wearing on a person who is healthy and vibrant. That takes its toll. Um, and you get minimal support from parents and administration. I mean, that's just how it is. And from the community as a whole, everybody loves teachers, but they don't want to support and pay teachers. You know, I other countries pay teachers well into six figures, but we're still in Louisiana struggling to get 50 grand with a master's or a specialist degree. I have a specialist degree, and to get 50,000 a year is considered good.
And I think
So
it's interesting as well because the medicines that you had to use prior to leaving, um, what was that cost like on an educator's salary?
the medicine that I was on, you took it twice a year, and it was $250,000 a year.
Wow.
Thankfully, I had insurance. Um, but had I not, which a lot of people don't, um, you're kind of left to basically live your life on steroids a lot because you can't afford the immunosuppressant medicines most of the time because they cost thousands of dollars, even the pills.
I remember you sharing that in particular about some of the treatments that you were having to take and that they were getting more and more expensive. And and I remember you even having questions at one point about, I have to see if my insurance is going to cover this. I have to see if my insurance is going to cover this service or that service. Um, and and I just think about even the stress of that. You're already having a demanding job, and on top of that, every time they suggest something new or inventive that's supposed to help you with the pain that you're in, you have to try to figure out, is this going to be covered by your insurance company? So we'll be able to talk about the financial impact as well of the cannabis industry. But I definitely wanted to touch on that with you, because I know that all the years you spent in your profession definitely plays a part in the progression of lifelong illnesses, what kind of treatments you're able to get, what you can afford to do. You talked about the payments and the salary and the struggles of that part. And I don't care what anybody says. When your coins are not right, that's another level of stress.
Oh, that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. And I mean, I feel that my last my doctor that I currently have is understanding and listens to me, but I can say that the majority of doctors that I saw, they didn't listen to me. They were constantly pushing different pills on me and then giving me more pills for the side effects of those said pills. Um, and I had drawers. I mean, drawers and drawers. I mean, you saw of
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceuticals,
Mm-hmm.
and I really have some bitterness about the healthcare system because I trusted these people, I, and and you're supposed to be able to trust your physicians, but a lot of times they are doing exactly what they're called. They're practicing. They're practitioners, and they're practicing on you. And as a Black woman, they really tend to practice on you.
I know I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's ironically true. It's absolutely, it's historically true. It's uncomfortably true. It's unsettling to think of, but it's true. We've seen this through our history that we do get practice on. So it's just, I guess you can almost say, Dr. Maya talks about the woman she sees laughing on the bus, and it's just an automatic reaction to when you know what life is. And to hear you say that you're so disappointed and still disappointed and even still lacking trust and confidence in doctors because of the way you were treated, it brings me automatically to where we are right now in the pandemic, and how we have people that still say, well, I can't understand why you won't take the vaccination. Whenever I'm listening to a woman say, I before the pandemic hit, I was a woman that was in a lifelong fight and I did not get this treatment, or I felt like a walking experiment. So you really That statement that you just made just shook me in a different way because it connects us right back to where we are now. That's amazing. So, with that being said, I feel like it leads us right into this question right here. What are some of the benefits of medical marijuana and cannabis over man-made medicines? And I heard you kind of hit on some key concepts. So I would love for you to elaborate. What are some of the benefits of medicinal marijuana and cannabis over our man-made medicines?
Well, it makes me think of Cat Williams. You know, the basically the only side effect is it makes you sleepy and it makes you hungry. um, sometimes depending on the strand, some people can become paranoid. So if you have any type of psychiatric issue, you do need to be careful about what you're consuming, because if it's a sativa, it can tend to make you more paranoid depending on the strand. There are hundreds of different strands. Um, if you just get a app called Leafly, you'll see that there are hundreds of strands and they're continuously making more every day. And to me, that outweighs the benefit, that outweighs the pharmaceuticals. It's been, there is a patent. The United States has a patent on cannabis that people don't know about, and it is um, patented by our government as a neuroprotectant, um, anti-inflammatory, and one other thing. I can't. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it's it's prohibited because of, you have to go back in history. So let me take a step back in history for a moment.
Okay. Okay.
Cannabis was used for hundreds of thousands of years as a medicine.
Okay.
It was
So
not
before we got
until,
where we were today,
oh
historically,
yes, you
this
can,
was still
they,
before the man made.
yes, they still have old timey prescriptions or ingredients for medicine, and it has cannabis on there as an ingredient. So when you look back into the 1920s is where you see the first uprising of really anti-cannabis movement. And
Okay.
it really was an anti-hemp movement because hemp can be used, which is called cannabis sativa.
Okay.
And all it is a low THC or no THC
Okay.
plant. It
Okay.
just has CBD and other cannabinoids. But it can be used for rope, for fibers, for clothing, um, hempcrete. That's a new thing that's coming out. It's the plant of 1,000 uses.
Okay.
So the robber barons, who were the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and all of those, they were heavy into cotton and timber. So, being the capitalist society that we are, it was deemed that hemp was could only be grown by it was written could only be grown by, it was such a wild plant, it could only be grown by the Negro.
Oh.
So then you start to see the intertwining of race with the plant as well.
Mhm. So
Um,
that's how it then, because there's this automatic assumption or connection with marijuana being on black people's thing, and then from there, oh, it's a bad thing, or cannabis, I guess we'll
well,
say.
it we were programmed and to believe that, because that the once they got hemp out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
then the war on drugs came, and Nixon was in office, and his main opponents, he was going through the anti-Vietnam War and all the protests for that. So he wanted the hippies gone, and he wanted the blacks gone.
Okay.
And his way to do that was through this big push and prohibition of marijuana. And that's where you get the term marijuana. Marijuana is Spanish Mexican, it comes from Mexico, for cannabis. And so it was this big countrywide um, media blitz to demonize the plant. And they tied it in with the hippies and the Negro and the Mexicans. And that's how it became such a also a racially divisive medicine as well.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hearing is very interesting when you talk about them associated with the hippies, and then even changing the way that cannabis was presented from cannabis in its formal, almost medical name, to saying, oh, it's marijuana, and even making it worse by then bringing it down to the next level, which was weed, which makes it sound like a street name because we see what weed going in the cracks. So to hear how the marketing was strategically developed to help or encourage people to see it in a different way is very interesting as well. Go ahead. I just wanted to share that. As you were talking, I'm seeing literally how that, in a sense, branding.
Yeah.
We don't realize how branding has been used for so long to create, like you said a minute ago, certain misconceptions about people, about products, about all kinds of stuff. So,
I
you
mean, even now, people use the term black market.
yeah, yeah,
You know, what do you think about when you hear
yeah,
black market? You think about black people
yes, yes. Certainly the first thing.
slanging, on the corner. That's what you think about. So it's a slow and steady race to try to change that, even the terminology, to say no, that's then they said, well, let's call it the illicit market. But um even things like that, it brings us back to this racial component,
Yeah,
that it was intentionally tied to. And that's why you also see, in the legalized market, Black people tend to stay away because we have been over incarcerated
mhm.
for cannabis.
It's a scary. Let me tell you something. It's a scary thing. I can be perfectly honest. Even in setting up our discussion, I was a little bit like, "Oh, I hope people don't give me the side eye for setting up this discussion." Because even though I'm confident in it, because you have had the opportunity to teach me so much over the years, it's still the mere fact that there's such a taboo when we talk about something that is more natural than the chemicals they make to put in our bodies. So you're like, I can absolutely see how, as Black people, we would still be nervous about getting into what is now a legalized industry because we already know that there's always a loophole that just does not seem to involve us when it comes to there being some type of formulation for things that we've been using all this time anyway. But go ahead.
Yeah, so that's I mean, as far as my history lesson, um then we have Reagan came into office, and they came, then there was a bigger push for the war on drugs, and we had the DARE movement, and which is still in place. And so you teach children, from little bitty children, um, from the time that they can conceptualize, right and wrong and drugs and things like that, that this plant is wrong, it's evil, it'll make you do horrible things, it'll lead you down this path of destruction. They show you these pictures of people, missing teeth and they're all wrinkled and they say they're 30 and it's just, and they're homeless and they've lost their cat, dog, kids and house. It's just awful. Just if you take this plant and use it for what it's meant for, which is medicine.
And I think about that. I think about what if they had approached that to us the same way that they used to approach us, like when they used to teach us about, bottles of pills and all that, like NyQuil and stuff. They used to say, only a responsible adults can help you, or only your doctor is the one who can help prescribe you with medicine to help you feel better. Like, imagine if we would have had that same conversation around around cannabis a long time ago. The approach to it would have been a lot different. And I also believe that the way kids viewed it, we don't see the kids that they targeted through these DARE programs and things like that. They don't grow up in most cases and end up being the ones that you see on a lot of these heavier drugs today and a lot of over-the-counter drugs. They tend to kind of deal with things that they can get access to, i.e. it's easier, to get street, which is not the same as your medicinal marijuana. But imagine if the conversation had been different. Imagine if they would have fostered that conversation better about how this is a tool that can help you in a more holistic way, and that with the support of adults, just like we find out about with cold medicine and things like that, you can be treated instead of, giving people this kind of like monster image of it. And I'll say, like, for me, I was one of the kids that was like, just say no, I don't ever want to use drugs, none of that. Definitely. But I have many friends and things that I grew up with who by the time we got to high school were already experimenting with different things. And I just wonder if it would have been presented to them in a different way, would the way that they have dealt with the introduction to it have been different? In other words, if we would not have made it look like a monster, maybe we would not have had so many people who felt that the association between this product and me makes me a thug or a street person. Because I do feel that there are certain mindsets attached to people who have used cannabis. And as a result, I don't think we want to address it, but it changes the way that people view themselves. It changes the way that they feel other people view them. Am I right about that?
Definitely. And I was one of those people. I definitely, I had cousins and everything who smoked, and I was definitely judging. Like, I was heavily.
Look at you.
He's taking the wrong path.
Meanwhile,
and then fast forward. Yeah, and fast forward some years and some experiences, and you're like, oh, okay. And the list of things medically that it helps for, from anxiety.
Can you share some of those examples with us?
Anxiety, depression, PTSD, AIDS, HIV, cancer, wasting syndrome, MS, muscular dystrophy, muscle spasms, Crohn's disease, arthritis.
And I've heard that a lot.
High blood pressure. Diabetes.
It's challenging for our senior citizens, and I've heard that a lot. That if they can get the creams and medicines and things like that, that older people who have arthritis have experienced a lot of relief.
Yeah, and I have not yet successfully, but I'm going to keep trying. I want to speak to churches, actually, because that is where we as a people tend to get our information from. is from the church, and uh, to and I want to break that taboo and that stigma of this plant being something malevolent, and to also help our people who are suffering get off of some of these pharmaceuticals and get something that will improve their overall health, not just what they're suffering from, but from their overall perspective.
Do you feel that there are a lot of people out there who are suffering with poor health and suffering from the side effects of medicines who could be better off if they were more informed about some of their options for medicine
Oh,
treatment?
100%, 100%. A lot of people don't even know that Louisiana has a medical program, has a medicinal cannabis program. Um, and we currently offer um, tinctures, which are liquids that go under your tongue and you hold them for 30 to 60 seconds and it's absorbed that way. Creams, salves, vapes. Um, we just got approved for flower. So you can actually smoke the actual flower, which is um, or utilize the flower. You don't necessarily have to smoke it. You can put it in a cooking or whatever.
Okay.
But the use of the flower is tends to be better because it has all of the terpenes and cannabinoids. So you're not dealing with something that's been chemically extracted and isolated. So it's more natural. So we'll probably see flower on the market at the beginning of 2022.
Okay.
Um, what else do we have? Oh, we have something called RSO, what they would call Rick Simpson oil, which is basically um, a high THC level um, sublingual that you again put under your tongue, and it is 700 and some milligrams of THC, which is a lot of THC. So you would just use a very, very small amount, like a rice grain, and that's used more for your high pain, cancer, HIV patients.
And all you would need is just that tiny amount.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I suppose that even from a financial standpoint, it will be more affordable for people as well. If you're saying that there are some types of treatment available that require such a small amount to help you out.
Well, this is where the politics come into play.
Well, this is where things take a bit of a turn.
Yeah, this is where we have a plot twist.
Okay.
So you have to have a doctor's visit. So right now, um, I can get you in to see a doctor for $200. Now, the thing about that, um, that's out of pocket. That's you have to pay that. The insurance, because this is still federally illegal, the
Okay.
insurance, your insurance, Medicaid will not pay for any of this. So
So
anything,
statewide is legal, but
yes,
federally is not yet.
correct.
Okay.
Um, so even though there are more states that are legal
Mhm.
than illegal, it's
Well,
still
that's what I was about
federally.
to ask you. So in getting treatment for this, is kind of a state by state thing. Is it one of those situations where federally they've kind of turned it over to the states to make the decisions? Is that
Yes,
what you are? Okay. Okay. Go
yes.
on. Okay.
Now, but there is a push for federal decriminalization at the very least, and federal legalization.
Child, we'll come back around to that decriminalization because we know that that means something if they decriminalize, and there are various reasons why they may not be leaning toward that one right there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So
Definitely good old capitalism.
Houston, we have a problem and we need to roll it back in the books and see what we're going to do to make these roads right.
Yes.
So we do have a question. Tanita says, "How do we get a hold of the tincture? Tincture? I did hear you first say that you need to get the doctor's appointment, which is $200. And can you proceed from there to let her know what's next or what else has to happen?"
So once you see a doctor, and you have to, and they have it now where you have to have any chronic illness. So that leaves it open to the doctor to get you qualified, pretty much. Um, and like I said, that can be a myriad of illnesses that you may have, or complaints that you may have that can get you qualified. From there, they send over your recommendation to a pharmacy, and our pharmacies are set up in regions. So we have 9 regionally. We have them in Alexandria, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, um, Shreveport, Houma, West Monroe, Lake Charles. Let's see. Oh, North Shore, which is like the Metairie, Slidell area, and Lafayette.
Child, you better drop that list for us straight off the top of your head. Okay. Tell us
Yeah. So, and the prices, that depending on the product, depending on what you're getting, the cost per product right now. I was trying to get a current price list. I couldn't get one available in time, but it's about $70 to $80 starting,
Okay.
up to 130, depending on the product.
So that's still not bad. I mean, I ideally we would want to say, oh, okay, my insurance will cover it, so I might go in and pay a $25 or $50 copay. But I would say still $200 to go in and see the doctor, and then maybe about $150. If you think about what you go through on your regular medicines, and maybe even some of the prices you may be paying, depending on what medicines you're getting treated for, it's a worthy investment, would you say, for people who really are not experiencing satisfaction and relief, to see if this will help them? Do you think that approximately $350 is a worth it for them to shoot and say, okay, will medicinal cannabis help me better? Will it treat me better? Can it help me be more productive despite the challenges I'm facing with my sickness?
It's definitely worth you trying. Now, I will tell you, if you have um, a chronic illness, like me, for example, my pharmacy um, bill was going to run me about $800 a month for my cannabis medicine. Now, that's more than the average person can afford, quite honestly, um, on our pay ranges here. Um, and it's because of the fact that the insurance doesn't cover any of it. Um, and that leads you back to the federal legalization.
Right.
But um, it's at least, I think it at least behooves a person, if they are um, considering cannabis as a medicine, to get the cannabis recommendation.
Okay.
And that's what a lot of people are doing. There's approximately, the numbers are like 20,000 patients in Louisiana.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, yeah. Now, the issue is, a lot of people are getting their recommendation, and so they can say that they have it, but they're not necessarily going to the pharmacy to get their medication
Okay.
because of the prices,
Okay. Okay.
because it is cheaper on the street.
Okay. So we have approximately 20,000 patients in Louisiana. Um,
And with flour, you'll get more because flour accounts for approximately 40% of what people consume.
Okay, so you saying that the flower itself, so once that's, you said that'll be available in 2022, that's an even better resource that's available. So what you're saying is that with all the different forms out there, if your doctor says, yes, you're a candidate, this works for you, there are many different ways you can seek treatment. I think that's one of the misconceptions as well, is that people often think that when you talk about the medicinal cannabis, that means, oh, I'm going to be sitting on the porch lighting one up, but that's not what this is. There are many different ways that you can um, be cared for, and that it integrates basically into your normal lifestyle as well.
Yeah, it's and that's something that we need to change as well because we can be sitting in a faculty meeting or in a classroom and pop a Tylenol like there's nothing. Go right in our purse and get the pill bottle. So you should be able to take your tinctures in without being ostracized or judged as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. You know what the crazy part is? Here we are all these years later fighting opioids when at the time opioids were introduced, they were introduced as things that were supposed to be so life saving. And even when they were introduced, I feel like people knew, in fact, that they were not life saving.
Oh,
And
well, yeah, that's why there's so many lawsuits now, is because they knew that it was extremely habit forming.
I think that's the uncomfortable part with it. Like the things that can actually help people in a better way and be more accessible. We're fighting at this point to try to inform people and teach people, how this medicine can help you and revolutionize your life, and how this medicine can put you in a much better position than you've been by taking over the counter products or other man-made medicines. And so what you say about changing the rhetoric around it, and the fact that you feel like, a person should be able to have their medicine with them as needed, just like they're able to have anything else, is very important. And I'm just trying to think to myself, like, how long will it take for the conversation around medicinal cannabis to really change? I think that people are definitely open to it because they realize and they know. And to be honest with you, there are so many people who in the past have already experimented with it. But as time changes and you evolve and you grow and you become this professional and you want to be seen in a certain light, you are still very reluctant to talk about how it has helped you because of how it's still ostracized by the public. So what you're talking about in regards to changing that conversation is really big. Um, so I have another question. Let's go to the next question. So I have okay. So here we go. How do you feel about cannabis becoming legal after so many Black Americans have been incarcerated for selling or using it? And what do you think should be done to rectify this issue as we see more states get on board for legalizing cannabis? So, how do you feel about the fact that we're at this point now, this big turnaround in the road, and we still have all these Black folks who are locked up? So, what do you think? How can we turn it around?
Um, they need to be immediately released. I mean, that is my opinion, and I stand on that. They need to be immediately released. They never should have been arrested, and they even if they were arrested, they should not have been charged to the fullest extent of the law, in which in a lot of cases in which they were. They got the maximum sentence allowable for a plant.
We have people
And
that are serving 15 or 20 years for marijuana charges. So that's very interesting.
yeah, so we also have to, but I can't say that without looking at reality. And the reality is that we live in a country, and in particular we live in a state that profits highly from the incarceration of individuals, especially the Black and brown people in this state. So you're cutting into a $1 billion industry. These Each bed in that prison is worth tens of thousands of dollars a month. So, do you think they're going to give up those bodies easily?
Fortunately not. Especially when we have the continual privatizing of our prisons. You're absolutely right about that. And I think that's the oxymoronic component of this, that it almost seems like until other folks could see how they could make money off of it and privatize it and put restrictions around it so that the rich basically get richer while the poor get poorer, it was a big taboo. And now it's not. And we still have this gap where we say, well, what happens to the people who have been criminalized all these years? Um, for using this product or for selling this product, and I hear now still serving. There are literally people who got 3 strikes because they were marijuana, selling marijuana, or got caught, having
Or just simple
marijuana.
possession?
Yeah, and they're serving years and years of prison. So I always think, like, if we change this, how do we right those wrongs? How do we fix this? How do we basically um make this right? Because in a sense, is it fair for those people to remain incarcerated? And our state is now moving toward more and more each day, more progressively each day, legalizing medicinal marijuana and things like that. It just puts us in a very interesting place. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to what a lot of people don't know, we were this look, let me get in the camera. This close to having recreational or adult, what we call adult use, legalized in Louisiana this session.
And I saw that. I
Um,
was like, what?
the
What's
only reason that it did
about
not pass was because the tax component of it did not pass.
that? Okay. Okay.
So they made it to where they were both locked in, like you had to do a 2-for-1 deal.
Look, so in other words, it came back down to money once again, which is the
Yes, and oddly enough, it's you know I do lobbying as well, so I understand that as an advocate you want to go in and you want it all. Like you want people out of jail, you want free expungements, you
right.
want taxes to be put into the schools and infrastructure and hospitals, you want a open market where people can grow their own um, their own medicine. These are the things that the advocate for the plant wants. But as the sensible lobbyist who knows what you can really get done in this state and with politics, they actually had it, and it's horrible to say, but the taxes for the medicinal cannabis, or for not for medicinal, but for the adult use program, the taxes were going to go to the sheriffs and police association.
Goodbye. Log off.
So, but
Look,
that was the
log off
only way.
tonight.
That was the only way to get it passed, because you have to kind of pay the price in
Yeah.
one way.
Yeah.
You're going to pay it now, you're going to pay it later.
And to be honest with you, if we can change the way that this system is working in our state, it's only a funny, ironic situation now when we consider the problems we're having right now within our state. But if we see that these things bring forward the types of changes we need to see, absolutely put the funds toward strengthening our law enforcement and certainly giving them a raise. And you know how I personally feel about
Oh,
that.
of course.
However, it's just so ironic considering the fact that we've had so many different things come to light here. And so my hope is that, you know what, maybe we can get that straightened out. But in the midst, so maybe we can get our law enforcement issues of our states straightened out first before we start passing laws that actually provide more regulatory income to be streamed into our police system. So I actually that's very interesting. That's just like, that's so ironic, and it's been an ironic type of year, right? Because this whole year has been just crazy like that. To even believe Louisiana got that close to legalizing recreational use in this state, the Bible Belt, you know. You know what I'm saying?
But
The
we have a heavy tourist industry as well.
Yes, we do. Yes,
And you know, with the prices of oil and gas going down,
mm-hmm,
there has to be another stream of income for our state, and this is a viable stream of income. Now the only concern is that we don't want the adult use market to totally obliterate the medical market, because
mm-hmm,
that market is needed.
mm-hmm.
And in a lot of states who have gone to adult use, you've seen the medical market dwindle to nothing.
Well, you just answered my next question already, because the next question was, how do you think the legalization of cannabis can help the economy of Louisiana? And then you just talked about the fact that our tourism is so big here. And so, when people are coming in and out and, you know, wanting to spend a lot of their recreational time here, it does give another opportunity. But I have another question as well. I was thinking about from the farming aspect. Um, and as several years ago, I had the chance to actually attend one of the farmers conferences that they have, which was totally fun. But even there, they were talking about how all these different, how much farmland we have in Louisiana, and
Hmm.
how many of our farmers, could start considering switching over some of their land to growing the cannabis. So in regards to, so we talked about the tourism, in regards to agriculturally as well, how could that help the economy for the state of Louisiana? And with you being a woman who grew up on 400 acres of soybean
Cotton.
and cotton, that part is something you definitely kind of understand a little bit more than the average, as the average bear, huh?
Yeah. So our state only has two licensed growers for cannabis, the medicinal cannabis,
Okay.
and those licenses were given to LSU and Southern. Um, because it still is federally illegal, those universities then had to outsource it to vendors through a bidding process
Okay.
to be able to grow and produce medicinal cannabis for the state. So that's the only way legally that you can grow medicinal cannabis. Now, with the 2018 Farm Bill, you can grow hemp, which a lot of people last year did jump into. But the
What's the
problem is,
difference between those two? Because
uh,
that's something new to me. What's the difference between?
so if you look at the plan actually looks exactly the same.
Okay.
The difference is that what they consider hemp is it only has point 0.03% THC or lower. So it doesn't have the psychoactive component. It doesn't have THC in it.
Okay. Okay.
And you can grow it in three different purposes, main purposes. Flower, which is smokable. A lot of people smoke it for CBD, and it's CBD has been proven to basically put your body in a state of homeostasis, so it evens out um, your the chemicals and your organic systems in your body, and it helps with anxiety and sleep and such, and inflammation. So you can grow for flower, but you would probably need an indoor facility for that. You can grow for seeds, and you can grow for industrial, and that's more of kind of like growing corn. It
Okay.
just grows, and then you cut it down. The problem that we have, not just in Louisiana but in the country for hemp, is that we don't have the supply chain in place. So once you grow the hemp, where do you send it to get it processed? Those places aren't up and running yet.
Okay.
So it's kind of a waiting game right now. There is a place in Homa that is under construction that will be a huge hemp processing
So is that here
facility.
in North Louisiana or that's down south? Homer or Homer?
Homa, Homa,
Okay.
South Louisiana.
Down south. Okay.
That is going to be a huge production facility for hemp. But there are opportunities for people to start their own production facilities, smaller ones, um, that wouldn't cost millions upon millions of dollars.
So while people in Louisiana may not be able to directly say, I'm going to go out and just grow cannabis straight out the ground, number one, you can grow hemp, which is legal, like through your farmers and things like that, if you have a farmer that's interested. And number two, you can also have as you said, a production facility. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. So, because I was trying to also look at, as we're talking about how people can get involved, right? And as it's still unveiling. So, as people ask, well, how can I get into this industry? And we know we have people who have the stores with the products, but there are also other components that you can be involved in this state as well, right? And those include the ones you just talked about.
Yeah, and like you said, in the CBD shops, those are booming. I haven't come across one that seems to be failing, honestly. Um, so that's definitely something that people can look into. Um, the production facility is is expensive, of course, to start up. You're looking at $2.5 million to start. Um, and if you have that type of capital, if you have investors, definitely that's something to look into. Um, but it's also right now getting the farmers on board because they grew it last year and they lost so much money because they didn't have anywhere to send it. So it's going to take some time to get the infrastructure and the supply chain built in our state, and that's not just Louisiana, that's the United
That's
States
how it starts
having
off.
this problem.
I guess I think about even industrialization back in the day, right? So you have to start from the ground up. You have to
Yeah.
have those facilities. You have to start building those products. So when you think in terms of industrialization, right, you may start off initially as the worker, but as the system starts to grow, then you can develop your own. That's kind of
Yeah, and it's a way to really have generational wealth. If you can get into this industry um and prime yourself for that lag time. Like right now is a lag time. So get your business plans in order. Get your venture capitalist, or however you're going to get the seed money together, and open up a production facility, because that is the bottleneck of the industry right now. There's no production facilities. So if you have what everybody is needing, you know the money will come.
like that. We did have another question from Tanita, and I'm gonna ask that one right question. She said, right quick, is there a form of cannabis that can be used for chronic illness without getting someone high?
Yeah, so that's probably going to be your CBD, your different CBD brands. And they have some great ones. Our One of our classmates, Alicia Johnson,
Mother
Mother
Mary.
Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to her. And Cypress Hemp is another really great one. Um, their products are great. And use that in the morning and at night, however you figure out what works best for your body. And that's the best thing because it doesn't have any THC in it. It has minimal THC in it.
And following this discussion, I'm going to post the links to some of those people because there's one more as well. My cousin out in Natchitoches is essentially yours CBD as well. So, and she's been doing it for a while. So you do have some, and she promotes the oil. She has bath bombs. She has a lot of different things as well.
Yeah, and all these people have smokable flowers. Well, Farmer Jones, um that's a guy in South Louisiana, African American, has great flower. If you want to smoke or even put it in, you can condense it down into a cooking oil or salve or something.
Do you find that the smokable kind tends to get people the quickest reaction? Because I've heard you make reference to that more than one time. Do you find that that the smokable treatment tends to have the fastest reaction?
Yeah, because of the way our bodies work. Your lungs absorb something in milliseconds versus the digestive system, which can take 30 minutes up to 2 hours.
Okay.
So while that isn't necessarily the preferred method, because there are some things, it's never the best to be smoking anything, um, but that is the fastest way to ingest and to relieve your symptoms.
So you just advise really that people figure out which method works best for them, but just knowing.
Yeah, I mean, you really find that you'll end up using a combination. Like, you'll take your
Okay.
tincture in the morning, you may put your creams or salves on when you're aching. If you're having a breakthrough pain, you hit your vape pen. And when we have flour, you can smoke your flour to combat your pain or nausea, whatever is happening that you need to stop.
All I gotta say is, once they produce the flour, I don't want anybody trying to use this to make your gumbo and wonder why everybody is like, "Girl, I came in with some inflammation, but my hands went down." I had a headache, girl. I've been having this migraine, and all of a sudden my migraine is gone.
I mean, you can look, once you learn how to cook with it, you can cook it with sweet and savory dishes. So, um, hey, once that opens up, once it's in the culinary industry, and considering how we love to eat here, I can't wait for that.
I was about to say, it just looks like to me it can change a lot in regards to health in Louisiana. And we talk about a lot how many challenges people have. And I'm making jokes, but truthfully, when we start talking about more natural alternatives, it really just comes in as one of them. We have our almond flour we sell in the store. We have I seen coconut flour? And we have what wheat flour. We have all different types, and so in a sense, it's just providing us with another way, in my opinion, to look at more natural options. So that's going to be very interesting as well, and I'm very interested in seeing. I think for a lot of adults as well who are reluctant to see if they want to transition into this, having a flour that they can use to cook into their meals is also another comfortable transition. And I think that that's one of the great things about us finally opening the gateway for people to understand that medicinal cannabis can help them, but they still may not be comfortable. Well, look, if you're not a person that's comfortable enough of saying, I want to take it this way or that way, well, let's look at how we can just integrate this into your lifestyle and start to help you feel more comfortable about something that's really about a stigma that's being created because of society. So I'm just enjoying earlier when I started thinking about the bath bombs and all those different things. I was like, you know what? I was thinking about the fact that my cousin is always showcasing that she has the oils to put in bath water, and I got bath bombs on sale this week. And then I was thinking about Mother Mary and how I've seen all the different ads they've had and things like that. And then you saying the first thing the doctor gave you out in California was the gummy.
Hmm.
And how that gummy, you said all of a sudden I felt like a completely different person, but I was reluctant to. When he first said it, I was like, what? I don't want to smoke that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. So allowing you to have it in a form that was comfortable for you allowed you to find relief and to really have your health revolutionized. And for people who are just tuning in, Jessica Fights has been fighting the MS battle for many years and has dealt with everything from strokes. She has had hip replacements. I have been with her. She had to learn how to walk 7 times. I think I've been in the hospital room with you at least three when you were in the process of getting back on your feet. So I can definitely attest to seeing three and being on the phone for at least five. And so knowing and seeing several of those experiences she's had to go through, working together as colleagues, knowing about the brain um
Lesions.
lesions that she had and the increase of those. And now, because she's been able to learn more about the cannabis industry and different medicines that can help her, she said that she has been able to get rid of so many of her medicines, function more clearly, her emotions are more well balanced. She's been able to basically reclaim her life and retire from the classroom to transition into her calling of helping more people learn about how the cannabis industry can help them move their careers forward, but most importantly, provide long term care to people who are dealing with lifelong challenges like she is. So, for those of you who are just tuning in, I want you to understand that what she is sharing with us today is not just something that Jessica is saying as a person that's saying, oh, we got to do something different or talking to you. She is really talking about herself and her journey and what she knows firsthand can revolutionize health, financial wealth, the state of our the state of Louisiana, and I want to dive into this next question, which is actually about education.
Okay.
So, um, you were an educator for 15 years here in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
You worked with students who were classified as special education. You saw a range of challenges from ADHD to leukemia to children who needed assistive walking tools. How do you think legal cannabis medicine can help kids that you have encountered over the years?
That's a great question. I primarily taught high school students, middle school for a little while, and but mostly high school. And the amount of medication that they put children on is alarming, and they start them early. I mean, I had coworkers who um, had their 4-year-old on ADHD medicine, and this is medicine that has been proven to have a lot of side effects. Some of them being permanent side effects, including the development of that child's brain. Um, and oddly enough, the the one of the largest reasons that Louisiana was able to pass the medicinal cannabis bill was through autism moms. Shout out to Caitlin Castleberry, who really led the effort, and she still fights every session she's down there. Um, but bringing those children to the Capitol who were in the middle of session having seizures and um, falling out and all kind of different things. When you see a child going through something like that, it kind of makes you look past the stigma, um, and hearing those mothers cry for their children, it makes you look past stigma and even the the want for money. So I want to definitely thank them for big being a big proponent in this fight in this industry. But it's as an educator, um, it's I definitely advocate for it in form in responsibly for children. I don't necessarily think they should be smoking a blunt, at recess. That's not what I'm saying. But I've laid out the different forms. They have gummies as well. So
Could be a vitamin, daily
yeah,
vitamin.
so
Mhm.
just like we would take the students to the nurse to get their medicine, their pills. You can take them to the nurse to get their tinctures or their gummies so they won't have a seizure that day, or so they're not having a combative episode or anything like that. So I think if we can just think about it as a medicine instead of a drug, that'll change a lot of this misconception that we have going on.
I like what you said because I think, first of all, the fact that you acknowledge that this state really probably wouldn't be as far as it was or is if it was not for parents who were advocating for their children with autism. Number one is something that people need to know because I know people are probably wondering, if we can use it for adults, who else can use it? Well, then that took me back to the whole idea of flour and using it to cook because you were saying, I'm definitely not saying that we need to, have kids in the mindset of the smokable, but like you said, with the gummies, with the tincture, with the flour, all these different ways that we can look for alternatives. And I just remember growing up, I had a cousin who took ADHD medicine, and he absolutely hated the way that the ADHD medicine made him feel.
They do, especially in high school. They'll
He
slip
hated it.
and hide the medicine and won't take it.
Well, and that was the problem he had, hiding it, spitting it out. Really, honestly, going into depressive episodes because he felt different or ostracized because of this, as opposed to giving them a medicinal option that really just helps them remain themselves but kind of level out, and doesn't have the same long-term effects as well. We don't like to really address it, but we're hearing more and more stories. I remember, what was this, a year or two ago, they took Tylenol Plus off the market, and I was having a fit because supposedly it had a lot of products in Tylenol that weren't good for you. And if you
Oh
take
yeah, it can destroy your liver.
your liver, yeah, and like hearing all of these stories out there, I think about our kids who have long-term challenges and have to take a lot of different medicines, and whether or not we want to see these things go into their little bodies. And so if there are options out there to change the game for them, as people who have taught these kids, as a woman who has worked with kids who are special education and things like that, you've seen and experienced firsthand what it's like for you to have to pull out an IEP form and look at a list of 5 different medicines a child is taking for ADHD, physical health
At
problems,
least 5, sometimes 10.
that's crazy. That's just it's crazy. And to know that there are perhaps other ways we can treat these children and really give them a fighting chance at a healthy future is very interesting. So I definitely wanted to ask you the question about how this ties in to what you've done as a teacher and what you've seen as an educator, and what you think about as you move forward. So we've had such a long conversation tonight. I'm going to ask you one last question, okay? And you've just been so awesome. So my last question is, tell us about your current work, what you're building. And I know I shared that at the beginning, but I would like you to give us a little bit more detail about where you're transitioning into, what you're doing, and how people can set up a consulting appointment with you if they want further guidance.
Go to, and if you can put it in the chat for me,
Yes, ma'am.
www.bonnne, BONNE, Sante, SANTELA.com. And there's a little contact me form, and you just put your information in there, and it'll shoot me an email, and I'll be in touch.
But the website is lit. So this is the link to her website. If you are looking to be able to contact Jessica because you want to talk more about it, you want to find out how to roll out your own products, CBD products, if you want to know what it takes to get into different avenues of the industry, if you want to get a consulting, she told you earlier that she actually is able to help people set up their doctor's appointments to start finding out if you qualify to get medicinal cannabis to treat your illnesses and things like that. All of those are things that Jessica can assist you with, and that is part of her target plan going forward.
Yeah, what I do is I walk you through the process of getting your medical recommendation, and get you in touch and scheduled with qualifying doctors, because the doctor does have to have that qualifier from the medical Louisiana Medical Board. So I get you in touch with the doctor who has that qualifier on their license, and also educate you about the different products and what you can expect and how to begin healing yourself.
Okay, then. Restoration. I guess y'all can tell I'm glad to be back with y'all tonight too. I have missed these conversations. So, is there anything else you want to share with us tonight, Jessica, before we close out? And then I have, of course, a few minutes and a few things to share as well.
No, I hope that I have been able to enlighten a lot of people, change some minds, um, create some conversation at the dinner table tonight.
Mhm.
I am available for consultation for just about any of your cannabis needs. I am the self-proclaimed Louisiana underscore cannabis on Instagram, if you need to get in
Okay.
touch with me there as well. And I look forward to connecting with you all and helping you start a journey of healing and restoration.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're very excited about tonight's conversation. And I thank you guys so much for tuning in. I do want to highlight our entrepreneur of the day. As you guys know, I have started highlighting an entrepreneur for each session. And today we have Soap Stations by Sade. You can actually find her on Facebook. I have put the name of her business in the comments. Now I have more products than this, but I've used some of mine. I've been with her clients for a long time, and she is absolutely amazing with her soaps. They smell good. They're long lasting. She has an excellent soap with coffee and honey in it that you can use to clean your skin. I use it as a scrub at least once a week, and it exfoliates my skin so well. And they smell so good. And she puts all of the list of the different products on the back. She recently rolled out a box that you can subscribe to for $40 a month, and you get a collection of her soaps. She is increasing her brand day by day. It's been amazing to watch her grow. She is here in Monroe, Louisiana, but she does ship and she does travel. So if you're interested in getting any of her products, please, 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 by all means, um, reach out to Sade and let her know that you are interested in purchasing some of her products. I'm sure she will be more than happy to service you. We will have another entrepreneur coming up soon. We have another discussion coming up on the 25th, and I'm so excited about it. We're going to have an amazing author and editor in chief of the Los Angeles Parent Magazine tuning in with us. She is going to talk to us about her new book that she took 20 years writing, an author by the name of Cassandra Lane, who is right here from Louisiana, my hometown of DeRitter. Actually got her bachelor's degree in journalism from ULM and moved to Los Angeles, where she has been flourishing and doing many things. She has a powerful new novel that I promise you is going to bring you to tears. If you have not purchased it, I will be putting the link up soon for you to check it out. But I hope that you all will be tuning in. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please hit that button so that you can get the notifications and so that you can stay tuned in with us. I thank you all for joining us tonight. I look forward to hearing from you. If you're interested in getting a Black Intellectualism t-shirt from me, please, by all means, inbox me and I'll send over the link for you to place your order. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and thank you so much to Jessica for being
Thank you.
amazing guest, and have a good night.
Good night.